It's too late.
You don't know nothing, you don't know nothing, you don't know nothing. You don't know nothing, you don't know nothing, but I know that. You don't know nothing, you don't know nothing, you don't know nothing. You don't know nothing, you don't know nothing, but I know that. You don't know nothing, you don't know nothing, you don't know nothing. You don't know nothing, you don't know nothing, but I know that.
Good people, what's going on? Welcome into Mo's Knows. Listen, week 2 recap. A lot of stuff going on. I know y'all like, man, what happened with week 1 recap? Listen, y'all can probably still hear it in my voice. Still dealing with a little something, but it's all good. We are here for the week 2 recap, man. A lot going on in the NFL. You hear my brother Lake City Fresh in the background, going crazy on the intro. Realest squad on the earth. We 2-0, baby. How can we not be the realest squad on the earth? Oh, man. Listen, man, I love y'all, man. So good to be here. So good to tap in with y'all, man. Just talk some football, man. Week 2, crazy. 16 games. Nobody has had a bye week yet. Of those 16 games, 12 games were decided by one score or less. 2 games went into overtime. We got a couple of blowouts, but a lot of close games. So we're going to touch each game. You pull maybe 1 or 2 things from each game. Take a look at what's going on around the league. Injuries seem to be piling up. We'll talk about that. We'll take a look at some of the current standings, and then we'll kind of preview what's going on with week 3. Let's get started with the Thursday night matchup that happened this past Thursday. Minnesota Vikings visiting the Philadelphia Eagles. Turned out to be a pretty good game. The Vikings kind of turned things on, towards the end of the game. By that time, it was out of hand. Philly had things together. DeAndre Swift put up 175 yards on the ground, kind of got that running game working. The Minnesota Vikings, one of the things that, I take away from this game is, last year they were 13-4. Of those 13 wins, 11 of those wins came by 1 score or less. So far this season, they've lost by 3 points and they've lost by 6 points. So their first 2 games of the season, that's the baby. That's the baby. She was quiet this whole time. And as soon as I start recording, she wants to cry. Now she's saying, Daddy, let me make sure she's okay. I think she's calm. Okay. So, 2 games so far this season have been decided by 1 score or less. And they've lost those games. So last year, they won those games more often than not. Again, 11 games decided by 1 score or less. This year, they start off 0-2. I think the biggest difference for the Vikings is no Dalvin Cook. This team does not have a running game in 2 games. Alexander Madison has only put up, let me go to the schedule. He's only put up 34 rushing yards versus Tampa and 28 against the Eagles. So this team is one-dimensional. Obviously, we know they are going to force feed Justin Jefferson. But this team is one-dimensional. I mean, Jefferson had 150 versus Tampa, 159 versus the Eagles. He's going to get his. But if you let Justin Jefferson get catches and shut down everybody else, you can beat this Vikings team. So they're going to have to figure it out, and they're going to have to figure it out quick. They don't have a running game. They're going to have to find some semblance of a run game. I think letting go of Dalvin Cook is more detrimental than they thought it would be. And they're paying the price for that, at least early on, starting with an 0-2 deficit. Moving on to Sunday's matchups, Green Bay versus Atlanta. I have a lot to say about this game. I'll try to keep it brief. I'm actually very, very encouraged by what I see from Jordan Love. That time sitting, waiting, learning, has really paid huge dividends for him because he's showing command of the offense. He's showing his ability to lead the team. But this Atlanta team is really, really feisty. Um, they especially know how to win at home. Being someone that has been in that stadium as the away team, knowing how those fans show up, knowing how that electric that building can get. Um, they were down early, and they fought and they clawed their way back to be a young team with the pieces that they have. Desmond Ritter throwing for 237. Bijan Robinson rushing for 124. You know, he is paying early dividends for where they selected him. We'll talk about this Atlanta Falcons team later. This Atlanta Falcon team is 2-0, and they got both of their wins at home. Now, you know, week 3 they go on the road. Let's see what they're able to do. But I'm excited for both teams. I think Green Bay isn't as bad as people thought they would be with the departure of Aaron Rodgers. Not saying that Jordan Love is on the caliber of Aaron Rodgers, but he's at least able to man this offense, and take advantage of having a really, really good defense. So I'm excited for both teams. Yeah, Bryant Culp in the building says Chubb needs second time, same injury. Yeah, we'll definitely talk about that. He says, no worries, I have kids. You hear them in the background on my channel. Listen, man, that's how it goes. Bro is in the building. Lake City Fresh in the building. What's going on, family? Hope everything is good your way. Season of love. Yes, it is. Season of love. Moving on. Next game. Vegas Raiders, Buffalo Bills. Not much to say here. We knew the Bills are going to bounce back from that performance week 1 against the Jets. Josh Allen, 31 of 37, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Again, he put the loss on him, said it was his fault. And this is the type of bounce back performance you want to see from your superstar quarterback. He did his thing. And he helped his team get the 38-10 victory over the Raiders. Jimmy Garoppolo, 16 of 24, 185, 1 touchdown to 2 interceptions, doing Jimmy Garoppolo things. Baltimore Ravens versus Cincinnati Bengals. Now, I wasn't surprised about the outcome of this game. I did pick the Ravens to win, especially early. It looks like the Cincinnati Bengals team is reeling a little bit. Joe Burrow doesn't look 100%, and he re-injured his calf. So I'm sure that weighs into, how he's delivering passes to his receivers. He had a better game than he did game 1, but still only 2 touchdowns to 1 interception, quarterback rating of 60.5. So the Ravens are playing good. They do have a lot of injuries at this time. Tyler Linderbaum didn't play in this game. Ronnie Stanley didn't play in this game. They had a couple guys in their secondary they were missing. We know J.K. Dobbins with the torn Achilles, but they were still able to find a way to win. Lamar Jackson got it done, didn't turn the ball over. So again, the Baltimore Ravens look like the team that we thought they would look like early. Moving on. Seattle and Detroit. I thought Detroit was going to win this one at home. I expected them to come out on fire. And Seattle, they fought. Detroit went into the half up 14-7. They were up 21-17 at the end of the third. Seattle was able to put up 2 touchdowns in the fourth and then ultimately get the touchdown in overtime to win this game and make both of these teams have a record of 1-1. I think this is the kind of up and down play that you may see from both of these teams. They are good enough to win and get a win, against good teams, maybe at unexpected times. Again, same thing with Detroit week 1 going into Arrowhead and beating the Chiefs, right? They're good enough and sneaky enough to get a win against good teams at unexpected times. But then they also have the ability to lose games that they should win. Um, a lot of it will be matchup and scheme based. Sometimes it's just what team decides to show up that day. Um, so I think the starts for both of these teams, how they started with week 1, I thought the Seahawks would win week 1 against the Rams and then lose this game, and then vice versa for the Lions. So how they both start again, it's super early. They're only 1-1. But I think the showing of the 2 weeks for both of these teams may be indicative of their season. I feel like both of these teams are going to be hovering around that 500 mark. Obviously, a team can't be 500 with the 17th game. So 8-9, 9-8. I feel like these are going to be two middle of the pack teams, depending on what happens in their divisions. Both of these teams do have an option to make a wild card spot, but I want to see if one or both of these teams can find a way to string wins together and not ride that seesaw all season. Shout out to Shock Max the First. Green Bay and Atlanta are going to be scary matchups for anyone this season. I completely agree with you, man. Green Bay is going to be scary because offensively, they might not have the names, but when Christian Watson comes back healthy, he gives you a big target with speed. Romeo Dobbs is showing up, and then they have some other young wide receivers that are really stepping up and trying to make a name for themselves. When you think about the Dontavion Wicks, the Jaden Reeds, then you add in a guy like Luke Musgrave at tight end. You get Aaron Jones back when he comes back healthy. You still have A.J. Dillon. You know, I mentioned Christian Watson when he comes back. Jordan Love is showing command of the offense. He only threw for 151 yards, but 14 to 25, 151, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. You know, he had committed no turnovers this game. And we know the Packers defense is really, really good. Then we go over to Atlanta. Bijan Robinson is him. You can't sleep on Tyler Algier. Desmond Ridder is actually showing command of that offense as well. You got Drake London, Mac Hollins, Kyle Pitts, Jonnu Smith. And you can't sleep on that Atlanta defense either. With the addition of Jesse Bates, A.J. Terrell on the outside, Calais Campbell, Grady Jarrett on the line. I don't think you can sleep on this team either. So I think if teams aren't careful, Shock Max, you're absolutely right. These are going to be scary matchup nightmares for anybody that these teams face. And we know the NFL is any given Sunday, any given Saturday, any given Thursday or Monday night. If a team comes in with a game plan and executes, they can get a win. So I agree with that comment wholeheartedly. Let's go. Chargers, Titans. Another game that went into overtime. I'm trying to figure out what is the problem in LA. It doesn't appear to be offense. And let's talk about it. The Chargers have scored 58 points, have 0 turnovers, and are 0-2. They scored 34 and 24. And they have 0 turnovers in 2 games. No INTs for Justin Herbert. No fumbles from anybody on the offense. I don't understand. Is it a defensive problem? Obviously, you give up 36 week 1. You give up 27 week 2. It's not for lack of talent. It's not for lack of talent. Joey Bosa, Eric Kendricks, Kenneth Murray, Khalil Mack, J.C. Jackson, Derwin James, Asante Samuel Jr. It's not for lack of talent. The next thing I have to look at is coaching. That's the next thing that I have to look at with this team is coaching. Does a change need to be made at the head coach position? And I think starting 0-2, if this team does not make the playoffs, or if this team gets bounced in the first round of the playoffs, I think Brandon Staley is going to be out as the Chargers head coach. I think over the years, he's made questionable decisions with the roster. I think he's made questionable decisions in game. He's shown poor clock management, all of these types of things. And now to be a team that has put up 58 points, but you've allowed 63 and have no turnovers and are 0-2, that's a problem for a team that should be better. And a lot of people don't put stock in, on paper. But this team should be better. And the way they produce should be better. They held Derrick Henry to 80 yards. How in the world was Tennessee able to win this game? So I think a lot of things come into question when you look at this Chargers team. Bears at Tampa. Okay, Baker. Okay, Baker. We got No Border Sports in the building. What up, everyone? Bryant sent me. Bryant, first of all, I appreciate you. I appreciate you for sharing the channel, for bringing people on board, having them watch the content. I appreciate you. And No Border Sports, I appreciate you for taking the recommendation, coming in, and then hitting them with a Debo, that like button. Man, I appreciate both of you gentlemen so very much. Baker Mayfield, it's early. Again, not going to put too much stock into it. It's early. It's early. But Baker out here, look, I found a home. This team needed a starting quarterback. Nobody else wanted me. Nobody else wanted to come here. I have a home. They know what I can do. They're ready to move forward with me. I got some good weapons. I got a good defense. Let me just go out and play my game. And Baker, 26 of 34, 317 and a touchdown. He's playing like a leader. He's making plays. We know his energy is, he has a tenacious energy about him. And I think this Buccaneers team is feeding off of that. And he's playing well. He's got his team at 2-0. Excited about that. Watching that game, watching the Bears and Justin Fields, I also too think a change needs to be made at head coach. If I'm not mistaken, Matt Eberflus, and I'm surprised that I said his name correctly. I've been working on that. Matt Eberflus is a defensive-minded coach. He was a defensive coordinator and then became the head coach. I don't understand the offensive philosophy in Chicago and what they're trying to do, but it doesn't seem like they're trying to maximize Justin Fields' abilities. And I'm not just talking about his athletic ability and his ability to run, But getting him off the spot, moving him around, changing his launch point, um, I just don't see how the offensive game plan fits his skill set. Now, this is not to say that Justin doesn't have any culpability in this as well. I think one of the issues that Justin has from me watching that game is sometimes he holds on to the ball too long. He's waiting for something to develop. He's waiting for something to get open. And I love the fact that he wants to stand in the pocket and deliver a pass in those situations. But he's holding on to the ball for too long. Too long. So again, that's on the offensive coordinator, having route combinations to where someone is getting open. I think that's on the skill players. They brought in, Chase Claypool last year. They brought in DJ Moore this year. And DJ Moore had a really, really good game. 6 catches for 104 on 7 targets. But nobody else did anything spectacular beyond that. Claypool had the touchdown, but he was only 3 for 36 on 8 targets. So only catching 3 of those 5. Only 3 of those 8. That's a problem. And what I'm worried about is Justin Fields becoming the scapegoat in this situation and not the coaching staff. I thought there were some things he did really, really well. And then I still think there are some things that he needs to clean up. But I don't think he has the coaching staff in place to help him develop his game. Chiefs and Jags. The Jags always play the Chiefs tough. The Chiefs were just superior yesterday. They found a way to come out with a 17-9 win, keeping the Jacksonville Jaguars out of the end zone. Again, they got Chris Jones back. They got Travis Kelce back. They didn't look like the dominant team that we know the Chiefs to be, but they were able to take care of the Jacksonville Jaguars and get their first win of the season. Colts and Texans. Colts get their first win of the season. Anthony Richardson looked really, really good until he left the game with a concussion. 6 of 10 for 56 yards, 3 runs for 35 yards, and 2 scores. And then we know the Colts defense showed up. I love what CJ Stroud did. Now, he was sacked 6 times. So the Houston Texans need to figure out what the hell is going on with that offensive line and get that together. But outside of those 6 sacks, he was 30 of 47 for 384 and 2 touchdowns. Now, granted, obviously you have to pass more when you're down. They went into halftime down 28-10. So naturally, this is a game that there would be passing a lot more. But he showed the proficiency to stand back there, make good reads, and deliver good balls. Whoa, that was crazy. Deliver good passes to his receivers. So I think if they can find a way to keep him upright, that'll only help in his maturation and development. Let's see. Niners, Rams. A lot of people are going to make a big stink about Puka Nacua catching 15 passes for 147 yards. Listen, I feel like defensively for us, that was the game plan. Allow them to do something similar to what they would do with Cooper Kupp and eliminate everyone else, and then force Matthew Stafford into some mistakes, which we forced him into. So I think, again, defense will clean up some of those things. We were able to manufacture some pressure with the blitz. Again, as our front 7 continues to get rolling, I think we'll see more pressure and more sacks from the front 4. And then offensively, Purdy did his thing. Deebo Samuel does what he does against the Rams. Not much more to say there. This is what our 9th straight regular season victory over the Rams. I think we have their number. Giants versus Arizona Cardinals. The Giants were a little slow this game. They went into halftime down 20-0. Didn't put up any points until the second half, but exploded for 31 points in that second frame to get the victory. Defense pitched a shutout in the fourth quarter to help in that effort. Daniel Jones, 26 of 37, 321, 2 touchdowns and 1 pick. You know, he's still kind of up and down. Unfortunately, the Giants did lose Saquon Barkley in this game to, I believe, is it an ankle injury? We'll touch on the injuries a little bit later. But they did lose Saquon in that game, late in that game. So I don't know how that's going to bode for them, depending on how long he's going to be out for. I was expecting more from the Giants. I definitely didn't expect them to get smacked in the mouth against the Cowboys. And then early on, it looked like the Cardinals were going to smack them in the mouth. But they kind of got the ship straightened out and were able to pick up that dub. So not too much to worry about there. But the injury to Saquon is going to be a problem. We got Big Daddy Niners in the building. He says, "What up, Mose? Watching you and Breezy watching you and Breezy Simulator at the same time." Listen, man, I'm cool with that. If you got dual screens, or if you got your iPhone and your iPad and you got me on one screen and Breezy on another screen, that's love. Shout out to my bro Breezy. He's doing his Madden simulation right now. 49ers versus the Giants on Thursday night. So if you can watch both, look, pull up 2 tabs, have me on one, have Breezy on another one. Listen, that's love. I appreciate that, man. Brian says Jaguars are going to break out. Yeah, they're going to be really good this year. Trev is a real deal. I think they're going to be really, really good this year. Really good. Jets and Cowboys. Unfortunately, we thought that Zach Wilson might have matured a little bit more. Do I want to blame one game on and say that he hasn't matured like we thought he would? No, because Dallas defense is really good. And I think when you have to stare across at another defense and you see Micah Parsons, and Michael Parsons' helmet is literally on fire right now. Like, he's determined. I think he's got a chip on his shoulder because he did not win Defensive Player of the Year last year. I think he's a man on a mission this year. So the first game without Aaron Rodgers, he's back to being the starting quarterback on the road in a hostile environment versus the Cowboys, who have a really, really good defense. I want to give him a few more games. You know, he was going into this season with the idea that he was going to be a backup and that he was going to learn from Aaron Rodgers. Now he's thrust back into a situation where the hype has already been built. Like, this team was on Hard Knocks. They had cameras in the building. Everybody knows the defense is great. Breece Hall comes back from an ACL injury, and he looks good. Garrett Wilson going into year 2. You bring over Allen Lazard. You bring over Mecole Hardman. You add Dalvin Cook. The pieces are here. This team was ready to make a run in the AFC to get to a Super Bowl. So now all of that pressure and all of those expectations are now thrust on to Zach Wilson when he thought he was going to be a backup. So I want to give him a few more games to see if, you know, he can shake off some of those jitters, if he can compartmentalize that pressure and those expectations, and be what this team needs as a starting. Cowboys are the Cowboys. Dak was efficient. Offensive line only allowed him to get sacked once. He did not turn the ball over. No, he didn't. And the defense was the defense. So it is what it is there. Let's keep going. Washington and Denver. That was a really, really good game. Denver had control, but then Washington stormed back, and they were able to get a 35-33 victory. Russell Wilson, 18-32. He had 308, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. He just doesn't look the same. And then for that offensive line to give up 7 sacks, that doesn't help. Sam Howell looked pretty efficient, 27 of 39 for 299 and 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. I think this was a back and forth game, and Washington was able to find a way to get it done on the road. So I'm excited to see what this team can continue to do. See how Sam Howell continues to mature, and see if that defense continue to put together games like this. And that was on the road, so Washington played well. Miami at New England. I posed the question to my bro Breezy during our picks. I said, what would it look like for Mac Jones to lose to 2 of his former Alabama teammates in back-to-back weeks? And that is exactly what happened. Miami, for the most part, had control of this game. New England did fight back with putting up 14 points in the fourth quarter, but ultimately it was not enough. Tua did throw a pick, but so did Mac Jones. 21 of 30 for 249 and a touchdown for Tua. 31 of 42 for 231 and a touchdown for Mac Jones. The running game was more potent for Miami. And the defense it was able to come up with 4 sacks of Mac Jones. This Miami team looks good. And it looks like they're only going to continue to get better. And then we have our Monday night matchups. Saints versus the Panthers. Again, Saints were in control of this game pretty much throughout. Carolina tried to claw their way back, but they weren't able to get it done. Derek Carr looks to have great command over this Saints offense. And as he continues to kind of learn this offensive system and build rapport with those offensive weapons that he has, again, with the return of Alvin Kamara, who will be coming back off of suspension in a few weeks, I think this Saints team is going to look really, really, really good. Here's the baby again. Why is she crying? Okay. His stomach is wilding right now, says my 13-year-old. His stomach is wilding right now. Okay. All right. That means he's going to be on the toilet for about, what time is it? 6:30? Yeah, I might not see him till 8 o'clock. Panthers look decent. They got to figure out what they can do with Bryce Young. Offensive line didn't do him any favors. He got sacked 4 times. Skill position players other than Adam Thielen didn't really show up. And I know this is going to be a process. So Frank Reich is in his first year as the head coach for the Panthers. Bryce Young is a rookie. It's going to take some time. He did show some good things. He too stood in the pocket, delivered some strikes when they were there. Showed good command of the offense. So I think he's going to be all right. We just know that this is a young team and it's going to be a process. Where the Saints, on the other hand, they have a veteran quarterback, they have a stingy defense, and they're looking to continue to build off of that. And then the last Monday night matchup, we got Cleveland and Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh was able to get the win. I throw Cleveland in the same batch that I do with the Seahawks and the Lions. 1 week you come out and you look really, really good against a Bengals team that no one anticipated you beating. And then you come off of that to a Steelers team that everybody saw you beating based off of how you handled the Bengals. And then you lay this egg. All day, this Pittsburgh defense did not make Deshaun Watson look comfortable. We know the offensive line is having some issues. I know there was an injury to their right tackle, but they gave up 6 sacks. Deshaun was 22 of 40, so not very efficient for 235, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, QBR of 16.5, quarterback rating of 70.3. Yeah, so this Cleveland Browns team, again, it is early, but the up and down is where we're having issues. The up and down, the inconsistencies of how they play. Um, this is a Pittsburgh team. The week prior, gave up 5 sacks to the 49ers. Only gave up 2 sacks to this Browns defense. So again, even their defense wasn't playing consistently. And then you have, not only do you have the interception by Deshaun Watson, but you have 2 fumbles lost, and then you have another fumble lost by David Njoku. Sorry. So 4 turnovers. It's going to be hard to win in the NFL when you turn the ball over that much. And then when you add on top of it the gruesome injury to Nick Chubb, let's move forward, to that. You don't have to worry, guys. Let's jump in the chat real quick. It says prayers for the Patriots, man. Family who lost his life in the fight versus the Dolphins fan. Somebody passed in that fight? I didn't even hear about it, but now, wow. People still getting killed over football games? Jason Niner Smash Math C is in the building. What's going on, bro? Thank you so much for tuning in. Yeah, that's tough. This one's tough because I understand being a fan. I understand being a radical fan. I understand showing support for your team. I even understand a little bit of trash talk, a little bit of back and forth. But getting disrespectful, getting physical, and then somebody losing their life over a football game as a fan, that doesn't make sense. But yeah, you guys don't have to worry. I am not going to show a clip. I am not going to show a still image. I don't think we need to see that. A very, very gruesome injury to Nick Chubb, similar to the injury that he suffered when he was in college at Georgia. Is very unfortunate, man. There have been a lot of people that have been talking about it. I'm sure if once Minkah Fitzpatrick sees it, I know he's going to be sick. A lot of people would say, why would you go low? Why would you go at his knees? I think that was a bang play. I think Minkah was going in for the tackle, and at the same time where he launches to go make the hit, Chubb's leg plants in that spot as he's being brought down by another defender from the Steelers. It's unfortunate, man. Part of the offseason, we were talking about running backs and their value and making sure these guys can get paid what they are worth. But then J.K. Dobbins suffers a torn Achilles, and now you have Chubb with his knee injury. And believe me, I think it's going to be filthy. It's going to be sick for front offices and teams to use these injuries to devalue and to lowball contract offers to running backs in the NFL. So it's unfortunate for the player. It's unfortunate for the position. I wish it didn't happen, but it is football. It's the NFL, and we know that these things can happen. Jason, I do I do sincerely hope that his career is not over. Um, but I would not be surprised if it is. And even if he is able to play, I wouldn't be surprised if he said, "You know what, guys, I'm done. I had a good run. I did some amazing things in the NFL. I don't want to keep going through this." And there have been a few guys. Alex Smith, I know was one. Who's the tight end from the Bears? Uh, Miller. Was it? What's his first name? It's not Mike Miller. It's not Heath Miller. But it was a tight end from the Bears who had a similarly gruesome knee injury. And because of the surgeries that these guys have to have, and because of ligament damage and where veins and arteries and different things are in the leg, sometimes these guys go through situations where they're close to either losing their leg or losing their lives. So it's not just an ACL injury that gets repaired and you go to rehab. Some of these injuries can be very, very catastrophic. So prayers up to Nick Chubb, whatever his next chapter is. I hope it's a really, really good one for the player and for the person. Injuries seem to be mounting up around the NFL. We talked about the injury to Saquon Barkley. He's going to be out a few weeks, dealing with ankle injury. I believe we talked about Joe Burrow re-injuring his calf injury. They say he's going to be day to day. I know he's going to want to play, but I think you got to figure out what's the best situation, not only for Joe, but for your team moving forward. Anthony Richardson, talked about him getting injured leaving the game. He's in concussion protocol. Same for Jalen Waddle. He got took a hit towards the end of the Dolphins game versus the Patriots. So he is also in concussion protocol. Some guys that went to injury reserve, Deontay Johnson for the Steelers. He left after the 49ers game, so he did not play last night versus the Browns. Budda Baker has a hamstring injury. He's also on IR. Devontae Adams also in concussion protocol. Odell had an ankle injury in the win over the Bengals. Micah Hyde, hamstring injury. Tariq Woolen had a chest injury. He should be okay. So injuries are starting to pile up around the league. You want to see teams at full strength. You want to see them at their best. But you also need to know what teams are made of as far as the depth that they have, who's able to come in, keep the ship afloat until the starter comes back, and how teams are able to adjust and make things work to continue to stack wins. So it's unfortunate for a lot of these guys. Keep these guys in our prayers. That they have speedy recoveries and they're able to come back. Again, we're going to continue to pray for Nick Chubb as he's dealing with his injury. And then lastly, let's take a look at where we are. This is an NFL that boasts 32 teams. And right now, 14 of those teams are at 500. We have 18 teams, 9 each, that are winless or undefeated. So we're going to take a look at those lists, and we are going to see what's right about them, what's wrong about them, what surprises there are. And then we will get you guys out of here to enjoy your Tuesday evening. So let's start with the winless group. We've got the Patriots, the Chargers, the Texans, Bears, Cardinals, Broncos, Panthers, Bengals, and Vikings. all winless, sitting at 0-2. Surprises on this list for me are obvious: Chargers, Bengals, Vikings. Bengals for the simple fact that they seem to be the only team in the AFC that knows how to beat the Chiefs consistently. They did lose to them last year in the AFC Championship game. I don't think that was the Bengals' fault. I think it was their mayor's fault, calling Arrowhead Stadium Burrowhead Stadium. Listen, this game is physical, but it is also mental. And you cannot give a team like that bulletin board material. That's stupid. It's the dumbest thing he could have did. But yeah, Bengals, surprised at that. They have a great offense. There has been minor attrition on the defensive side. But if you're telling me that Jesse Bates is has that much of an impact on the defense where this team isn't playing well, while I like Jesse Bates, I don't know if I can agree with that wholeheartedly. The Vikings, again, this is a team that won 11 of its 13 games by one score last year. So far, they're 0-2 in those exact same games this year. How can they sustain that? Again, not having a running game. The loss of Dalvin Cook is going to be bigger than they thought it would be. And now they have to figure out how to right that ship. We know we can pass the ball. We know Kirk can get the ball to Justin Jefferson and TJ Hockenson. But what do we do when we need to run the ball? When we need to control the clock? When we need to control time of possession? What do we do? And then the Chargers, great team offensively and defensively, and they're just not able to put it together. Again, 58 points in 2 weeks, 0 turnovers, and you're 0-2. So at some point, they're going to have to find a way to get that turned around. The Broncos, I think this is this is Russell Wilson's audition for Sean Payton, and I think at the end of this year, Sean Payton is going to decide to move on from Russell Wilson and start fresh at the quarterback position. Carolina Panthers, they're a young team. They're building something. We're probably not going to see the fruits of that this year. Cardinals, don't care. They're NFC West rival. I'm glad they suck. Bears, again, I think they need a coaching overhaul. Matt Eberflus is not the guy. He's a defensive-minded coach, and they have some pieces, but I think that defense can play better. And then he's not the offensive mind, and they don't have the offensive mind in the building to develop Justin Fields and get the most out of him. Texans, again, also young team, young quarterback. DeMeco Ryans has been a defensive coordinator, and now he's a first-time head coach. Again, we're not going to see the fruits of it this year, but these two young quarterbacks, I'm excited at what they've done so far, being rookies, being thrust into the starting role, having, face of the franchise thrust upon their shoulders. I like what they're doing. Let's just hope that, these young coaches, well, not young because Frank Reich's not young, but these coaches and these front office staffs can put the pieces around them to build long-term for the future. Patriots, again, solid football team. They're well coached. I think they just played two really, really good football teams in the Eagles and the Dolphins to start off their season. I think they are going to beat some teams that you may not expect them to beat. So I don't think they will be winless for long. Now let's jump over to our undefeated section. We've got the Falcons, the Bucks, and the Saints. NFC South is well represented. We got my 49ers. We got the Ravens, Dolphins, Cowboys, Eagles, and Commanders. So my surprises, all of the AFC South and the Commanders. Atlanta. Wow. Again, young team, a lot of young pieces, but they seem to be putting it together. Will they be able to sustain this? No, I don't think they're going to be undefeated into the middle part of the season. And I think they're going to start to see some struggles as they continue to put more on film and teams come in with a game plan to kind of uh, enhance their deficiencies and exploit those deficiencies. But for them to start off 2-0, I think is incredible. Same thing for the Buccaneers. I don't think anyone believed in Baker Mayfield to do this, but himself and this organization. And I think he's paying off good dividends. The Saints had a really, really good defense. People didn't know how Derek Carr would fit in. I think he's fitting in just fine. And then the Commanders, uh, they put all of their eggs in the Sam Howell basket. And through 2 weeks, he's made it pay off. Now, as far as the other undefeated teams, Eagles are a good team. They are kind of showing some signs of a struggle. I don't think it's player related. I think it's coaching related. You know, when you lose two coordinators, both your offense and defensive coordinator, and now you have two new guys on both sides of the ball, I think there is going to be some attrition there. I think there is going to be some growing pains, learning new styles, new philosophies, uh, new verbiage. You know, a new coach may call, something one thing where you called it something different last year. Uh, this team is good enough to start 2-0. And once they kind of iron out those wrinkles, then I think you'll see them really take off. Cowboys look like a team on a mission, playing really, really good defense, sacking the quarterback, getting turnovers. Offense is playing pretty well. We know this team starts hot. Let's see how they get when they get to the middle part of their season. When they have the Niners on their schedule, and then they have to face the Chargers. Then they got the Eagles. Then they got the Bills, and then the Dolphins. They got some really, really good teams on their schedule. Let's see, what it looks like when they face those teams. Ravens, again, this is a quality organization. They always start hot. They're going through some injury issues, so we'll need to keep an eye out on that. How healthy can this team stay in order to keep stacking wins? But they look good as usual. The Miami Dolphins starting off really, really hot, getting two really good wins against the Chargers and the Patriots. Offense looks good. Defense looks good. And if Jalen Ramsey is able to come back late November, early December and help them into the playoffs, I think this team is going to be really, really good. And then my 49ers, listen, we have not lost a game that Brock Purdy has started and finished. Eventually, that's going to come to an end. I don't know when, but so far it has not. And I'm happy that it hasn't. Every time Brock Purdy has been our quarterback, a game that he started and finished, we put up 30. They don't call him hashtag 30 Purdy for no reason. Defense looks okay. We looked really, really good against the Steelers. Kind of showed maybe a few chinks in the armor, but like I said, I feel like the scheme that we played was specific for Sean McVay because we know him so well. We know he's going to take the cheese. Whatever you give him, he's going to take. And we gave him all that underneath stuff to Puka Nacua to eventually force mistakes from Matthew Stafford. We had 5 sacks week 1. I think we only had 1 sack against the Rams. Don't let Nick Bosa get charged up. Once Nicky get charged up, it's a wrap. Fred Warner's playing crazy. Diamador Lenore on the outside is playing crazy. Talanoa Hufanga is picking up where he left off. Got an interception last week against the Steelers. So defense looks good. Offense looks good. Christian McCaffrey is running like a man possessed. So we're looking good out here. And then just looking forward to week 3. I'm not going to pick out any particular matchup. We have not had game of the year just yet. And I don't see a matchup this week that would give me game of the year vibes. No matchups that give me game of the year vibes. So I look for more of the same. I look for some of these undefeated teams to kind of continue to set themselves apart. I look for some of those winless teams to kind of get rid of that goose egg in the win column, and for some of these middle of the pack teams to also kind of separate themselves. Ultimately, I'm just looking for good football, man. That's all I really care about. Good football. Jason Massey says Russ is done. I think he is. He's done. They moving on from Fields since the regime didn't draft him. If I was them, I wouldn't. If I was the front office, because I think the new GM, I don't think he hired Eberflus. The new GM is what, Ryan Poles? I think he inherited the coach and the quarterback. If it was me, Jason, I'm getting rid of Eberflus. I'm finding a young, it's the cliche route, right? But I'm finding a young hotshot coordinator that has a really, really good system and that knows what to do with Justin Fields, and then having him find a young hotshot defensive coordinator or even an experienced veteran defensive coordinator that knows what to do to get this defense humming. If I'm the GM, I'm keeping Fields because I see the ceiling and the potential, and I'm getting rid of Eberflus. But I could see them getting rid of it. I just wouldn't do it that way. Shockmax says, can't watch for the Cowboys matchup. That game is going to be fire. Wait, who did they play? Cowboys Arizona, or are you talking about Cowboys Niners? Because Cowboys Arizona week 3 is not going to be fire. Cowboys Niners week 5 is going to be fire because I will be there. I will be there. Breezy will be there. We got a lot of people that's going to be there. I think Lake City Fresh is going to be there. Lake City Fresh, Wayne Breezy, Travis King, shooting a video for Faithful to the Bay. If you have not, please go to Apple Music, iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your songs from. Go to your preferred music streaming platform and download Wayne Breezy's track featuring Lake City Fresh and Travis King, Faithful to the Bay. Show my brother some love. We'll be out there shooting the video that Saturday, partying it up, and in the building for Sunday Night Football when we take on those Dallas Cowboys. Can't wait. Listen, I love and appreciate everybody who tuned in. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate your time and attention. If you can, hit the thumbs up on this video. If you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button. Become a part of the Mo's Knows fam. Listen, once you're family, I love you, and there's nothing you can do about it. I will be back Thursday. We'll go over some fantasy stuff. We'll cover some week 3 stuff. And because it's Thursday Night Football, I might have a game streaming live and watch the game, especially for those who don't have Prime. If you don't have Prime, tap in with Mo's Knows. We'll have a game up. We'll watch the game, and we'll chop it up with y'all live as the 49ers take on the Giants on Thursday Night Football. All right, y'all. I'm out. Y'all have a good rest of y'all evening. Peace.